Hello all, welcome to my YouTube channel. In today's video, we are going to discuss about Azure Bastion services. So let's start. What is Azure Bastion? So the Azure Bastion service is a fully platform managed service that you provision inside your virtual network. So for example, when we connect to Azure virtual machine, what we generally do, we associate a public IP address with the VM. So with the public IP address, we generally take the RDP or SSH sessions. So to avoid public IP addresses, because it exposes your port like RDP port or SSH port to the outside the world. So it's basically for security purpose. This is a very good service which we should use to avoid associating public IP address for each of the VM inside your virtual network. So basically what it does, when you connect via Azure Bastion, your virtual machine don't need a public IP address, agent or any special client softwares. So the Bastion host is deployed in the virtual network that contain the Azure Bastion subnet that has a minimum /26 prefix. So when we use this Azure Bastion services, our subnet names should be same Azure Bastion subnets. So there are two ways to create it. Either you create automatically like Microsoft will do it, or you will configure from your own. We will see in demo these things. And if you see here the minimum /26 prefix, it means the CIDR notation should have minimum /26. It should not 27 or 28. It can be a /25 /24. So it's a minimum number of requirement basically which Azure Bastion has. Let's understand from this architecture. So you can see I have taken this image from basically Microsoft documentation. So this is our virtual network. What we have done here, we have created a subnet called Azure Bastion subnet. So from this we are connecting to our virtual machines which we have. So how it's working, basically the end user is connecting to the Azure portal, and from Azure portal we are connecting through the Azure Bastion, and from here basically we are connecting to the virtual machines which we are having. So but as I told you, we don't require any public IP address, but that public IP address is not required only for virtual machines which all these virtual machines. So there we don't need any public IP address. But for Azure Bastion, we need to create a one public IP address. Then only we can connect to the over internet. So that's how basically end user connect their VM use with the help of Azure Bastion services. So there is a feature called host scaling in Azure Bastion. So basically this is applicable if you are using the standard SKU. It's not applicable for basic SKU. So Azure Bastion supports manual host scaling. You can configure the number of host instance in order to manage the number of concurrent RDP or SSH connection that Azure Bastion can support. So Azure Bastion support up to 50 host instances. This feature is available for the Azure Bastion standard SKU. So if you are using basic, then you cannot use this option. So for that you have to use standard SKU only if you have to use host scaling. Next comes to pricing. Azure Bastion pricing involve a combination of hourly price based on SKU, scale, unit and data transfer rate. So end of the day basically you are going to add a cost on the virtual machines, but from security point of view it's very important services which we need to adopt. Let's see in demo basically how it works. So I'm in my Azure portal. Here I am having a resource group called Bastion, and this resource group is part of a Central India region. So what I have done, I have already created a virtual machine. I'll just open it, Bastion VM. If you see here, I don't have any public IP addresses. I have only a private IP addresses which we are getting from the subnet. So if I want to connect to this particular VM, I cannot connect it with RDP because we don't have any public IP addresses or DNS names. So what we can do in that case, we can use a Bastion services. So this virtual machine basically is part of this virtual network, Bastion VNet. So whatever the virtual machines you are going to create under this virtual network, you can use Bastion services. So basically it's a one time you have to create a Bastion services for this particular virtual network. Then you can create a number of sorry, and number of virtual network, sorry, virtual machines under this particular subnet, particular this virtual network. So what I will do now, I'll click on Bastion. So now we have to basically configure this service. So here we are getting two options: create Azure Bastion using default, or we can choose this option. I want to configure Azure Bastion on my own. So it's just a demo purpose. We don't need any major configurations. So what I'll do here, I'll go with default option. So this service basically takes a lot of time, like it's minimum 5 to 10 minutes it will take to complete this process. So our Bastion deployment is completed. So now what I can do, if I'll go to my virtual machine, you can see still I don't have any public IP addresses, but I can connect to this PM. So I'll just go here, Bastion. It asks for the credential of this particular virtual machine. So if I'll put my username here, connect. So we have to enable the pop-up. I'll just click on connect again. So here we can say it's trying to connect to a virtual machine. This is a demo VM, it's open. So that's how basically we use Bastion services. So in similar way, if you are going to create another virtual machine under the same virtual network, then you need to just pass the credential of your particular virtual machine and you can use the Bastion services. And one more thing here, as of now, Bastion service supports only IPv4 addresses. IPv6 is not supported yet. So make sure whenever you are using these services, you should have the IP addresses from the IPv4 range, not from the IPv6. So that's all for today. Thank you so much. See you in our next video.